this economy we've created that gives them no stability.
And why do you feel like it's that? Why do you feel like this economy has gotten to this point where childcare is not prioritized?
Well, I think a lot of it is jobs just aren't secure. So I had a job. I'm a retired teacher. I had a job that provided me with a pension.
Right.
So I could concentrate on my job and do my teaching job the best way I could, knowing that somebody else was taking care. I was putting money into my pension every month, but I was going to have a pension when I got to this age. And there was, it was a lot of work. I was tired a lot, the way any young parent is, and as you went through. But on the other hand, that was taken care of for me.
Right.
And in this generation, I see those things aren't being taken care of for them the way they were for me.
Right.
So that the contract work, the never being able to be sure if you'll get the next one.
So true. It's so true.
So it's just not the way an economy should work.
I agree.
Economies should work for the people they serve,
agree.
not the other way.
That's so beautiful.
And that has to be addressed. And supports have to be in place so that when a family does have, families do along the way have crises.
That's right.
And they need to be able to get through them without drowning in a financial disaster.
What a powerful way to put it. So true.
I guess one of the other concerns I have is, as young people have shown us in the last little while, is of course the climate crisis we're in. Theo's going to grow up in a world that is different in a lot of ways than I grew up in, but she is going to really, and her generation is going to really struggle with an environment that needs protection. If you're a young person working on affording the day-to-day things in life, you maybe can't concentrate on those long-term things. And we need to start, of course, and we needed to start a long time ago. I remember 28 years ago, David Suzuki saying, if we don't do something in 10 years, it's going to be too late.
It's going to get bad, yeah.
And we knew it. We knew this was coming, and we haven't addressed it adequately. And we need to start, and we need to, Theo's generation, her parents' generation, and those of us who are older than that, need to start getting serious about that.
It's beautiful to hear someone talk about so much compassion about the younger next generation. It's beautiful to hear that, Rita. I really want to thank you.
Nice of you to say, Jagmeet.
No, it's really nice. Thank you. Maybe we can hear from Emma, and thank you so much, Rita, again, for sharing.
Hi, Rita, you're a tough act to follow.
She's very eloquent. What a great voice. You might want to consider running in politics, maybe.
I don't like that.
I don't know. Maybe we'll have to talk to you again.
Hi.
Hi, Emma.
Hi. My concerns right now are mainly that I live in crippling fear of the rental market.
Oh, I hear you. Yeah.
I know that I'm going to have to move very soon. And the thought of doing that makes me sick to my stomach.
Because you're not sure you can find a place you can afford, right?
I don't know that it's possible. I don't know that what I can afford will be close enough to where I work, for example.
Right.
I don't know that what I can afford will then even be stable. I know plenty of people that have found places that they can afford, good places to live, and they are being evicted, so that way those places can be renovated, sold for more, buildings that are being taken down so that condos can be built up, and that's, I don't even have words for it beyond that.
No, it's such a big fear. I mean, you're not alone. So many people are worried about that. What is it, in terms of your day-to-day, like if you think about how much you're spending on your rent and how much you're worried about the rent, describe that a bit more.
Oh my gosh. Well, I had to leave the last apartment that I was in, and I quite liked it, and I was very fortunate to be there because I was paying more than 50% of my income on rent and various bills on top of that. And it was fine for a while, but as my income stayed the same and bills grew and grew and rent grew and grew, it was no longer feasible for me to do that. And as I said, the stress of living that way was devastating.
Of course, if you're spending more than half of your salary on rent, then you've got no money left over at the end of the month to save up or to do anything else.
Exactly. And I'm also in you know, I don't have children to care for. I don't have dependents. It is just me, and I live in a very privileged position. And I think of either my future or the future of friends of mine who have children. I have friends who break up and can't move out, and you're stuck living with someone, you know, in these difficult situations
true.
because leaving is not an
can't
option.
afford to leave.
Exactly.
What a bad thing to be stuck in. Like when you
yeah.
can't afford to leave. You were mentioning families. Is that something that you think about, that you're second guessing whether you want to start a family or to even consider that because of how costly it is?
It's not even something I would fathom, to be honest, because of the cost and because of the consideration of what I could provide.
Right.
If I feel like that I can't provide a stable living situation for myself, then the possibility of any dependence is not even on the table.
And just to be clear, it's not that anyone has to do that, but if your reason for not doing it is just because you're so crushed on the weight of all the costs, that shouldn't be the reason.
Yeah.
People should be free, obviously, to choose one or the other, but it shouldn't be because it's too costly. Like, that's just not right.
Yeah.
Wow. And then what would it take, do you think, for you to feel a little bit less of that burden? What would it take to kind of free up some of that pressure that you're feeling on the rent? Yeah.
I mean, if I knew that affordable housing was out there, right?
Yeah.
Like if I felt confident that was out there, that would make a big, big difference. If I felt that development, certainly in my neighborhood in the city of AC, is not just purely for condos that are then going to be rented out at rates I can't afford anyway. Yeah, I think that's it. Hold on.
Those are powerful. Yeah, those are great examples.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, well, really want to thank you for sharing as well.
Great.
What you're describing and you're being a voice for is the voice for so many people that are living that exact same reality, that exact same fear, and having a person to be able to express that is making probably a lot of people who are hearing this feel a little less alone and a little less afraid because they're hearing someone talk about their frustration. So thank you for doing that, Emma.
Thank you for
really
that.
powerful. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, Jasmine.
Hi, nice to see you.
Is that how you pronounce it, by the way?
Yeah,
Okay,
Jasmine.
cool.
Yeah.
I'm always
my
got to
na-
be on top of that.
Yeah. My name is Jasmine Hawamde. I'm a fourth year university student at York. I also work for our students union, so I get the opportunity to speak to so many students on campus. And I'll tell you from personal experience and from students that I speak to every single day, we are so worried about student debt. And crippling student debt because we are graduating and not finding jobs. And I am privileged enough to hold a full-time job and be in full-time school. And the effect it's had and the detriment it's had on my studies and my own health is unfortunate. But if I felt the need...
You're stretching yourself too thin.
Yeah, but I felt the need to take a full-time job, not just because, well, I do love my job, but also because I want to pay my student debt. This is the best and easiest way for me to do it. But I am stretching myself too thin, and so many students are taking less classes, dropping out of school, unsure if university or post-secondary is even worth it, which is unfortunate because how are we ever going to get a leg up? How are we going to be a well-rounded society, a well-educated society when we're not given the same opportunities, right? When students are being punished for being poor or being punished for not being born into a certain level of privilege. And we see that especially within racialized communities, women, and like the most marginalized. I'm from Scarborough.
Yeah.
I love Scarborough. I think I talk
Born in
about
Scarborough
it.
too.
I know.
Okay, shout out to Scarborough.
I think
Did they choose you because you're from Scarborough?
maybe that's what it is.
That's awesome.
We're Scarboroughs.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of students that I went to high school with, we are facing, like, I'm still in contact with people I went to high school with and are telling me that, yo, Jasmine, I don't know how I'm going to pay for school. I don't know if it's worth it anymore. We're graduating, like, I think I said this a million times, not finding jobs.
Yeah.
So, okay, there's such a shitty, excuse my French, but housing market, and when we're graduating with so much debt, how are we ever going to get a leg up?
That's right.
Right?
You described it as crushing, and I hear that all the time, that the debt feels kind of crushing. Put it into your words. Like, what is that like, knowing that you've got student debt and there's interest on top of that? That means it might increase, and then you've got to pay some of it towards your interest and some of it towards your principal. What does that feel like?
It's like a ghost. It's like a that never leaves because I mean, like I'm trying to think about living a well-rounded life, trying to pay for like even like going to the movies or going out to dinner with my friends. Just being a young person is so difficult because now I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to choose not to go out. I'm going to choose not to take a vacation. I'm going to choose not to like maybe some people are skipping meals, right? Because they'd rather pay that debt because it's just something that follows you and never leaves.
The follows you analogy is kind of scary. It's scary too, right? Because it's following you and it's a scary thing.
Yeah.
So the ghost analogy is pretty accurate for a lot of people.
So.
So as a young, I always say that a young person graduating from school should be filled with optimism and hope. But because of all the costs, we heard from Emma, the cost of housing, from you, the student debt, instead of being optimistic, I find a lot of young people are really worried about the future. Is that how you're feeling?
Yeah. I mean, like we're graduating and then what? Like I aspire to be an educator, but in this day and age, how am I going to have the opportunity to teach and teach in the city that I love and I've been raised in my entire life because there are no opportunities from here, right? So like I know a few people who are like, you know what, I'm going to add another 2 years to my degree because I don't know what I'm going to do when I graduate. I might as well stay in school, stay at home.
Wow.
So.
And you also mentioned, so some people might try to find other ways of studying so they can get a degree or get a career. But you mentioned a lot of people are even saying, what's the point of going to school if there's so much debt and I can't find a job? What's that like for a lot of people?
I mean, like the dream of contributing to society has been stripped away from a lot of students, right? And when I feel like students are basically saying, you know what, there's no point, which is unfortunate because these are smart students that deserve opportunity, but feel like no matter how hard we try, no matter how hard we work, we're never given that opportunity, even though we're fighting for it.
Wow.
Like we're knocking on the door, nobody's opening.
It's like it's rigged against you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing as well, Jasmine. It's just the same way Rita and Emma and Jasmine, you're all voicing what a lot of people are feeling. And you don't understand how powerful it is to hear someone share your story. So the people that are hearing this are going to be like, you know what, Jasmine, that's my story. You're right, Emma, that's exactly what I'm going through. Rita, you get me. And that's powerful. So thank you for being a part of this. That's so good. I'm now going to have a quick chat with the media, but stay with me. Thank you so much. That was awesome. Where's my mark here? Oh, there it is. Thanks. I was looking at that mark right there. Thank you for joining us. Again, thank you to everyone who's here. We just heard from people describing a lot of the frustrations and fears and worries that young people have. And it's incredible to hear. I think Rita really touched me in the sense that we've got someone who you might think wouldn't be concerned about young people, but is so deeply concerned about her granddaughter and those struggles and those worries and the worries of her family and her kids. The reality is a lot of young people are faced with massive burdens, whether it's student debt and the crushing interest on top of that student debt, or it's the fact that they can't find housing. And Emma talked passionately about the fears that people have about finding housing that they need. We know that people are worried about the climate crisis, they're worried about the cost of living, and in light of all these concerns, all these fears, we've got Mr. Trudeau in power for 4 years who's made decisions that have not made things better. When it comes to housing, he's invested 19% less than even Mr. Harper did in tackling the housing crisis. That to me is just so indicative of not understanding the crisis that we're in. Instead of tackling the climate crisis, he buys a pipeline. Instead of helping out students who are struggling under the weight of debt and interest on top of that debt, he charged $3 billion on the backs of students, profited off the backs of student debt over the past 4 years. While at the same time, last year alone, Mr. Trudeau and his government waived $6 billion in corporate loans. Just take that choice in. Students are being profited off of, their debt is being profited off of to the tune of $3 billion, while corporations' loans are being forgiven to the tune of $6 billion. The priorities are all wrong. The choices are all wrong. And it does not have to be that way. If Mr. Trudeau can find $14 billion for the richest corporations to buy corporate jets and limousines, he can find money to invest in things like pharmacare and dental care. So this is our plan. we want to put forward a new deal for young people so that young people aren't going to feel the weight and burden of all the stresses they're faced with. We want to lift them up. And we can do that. We can do that by taking a number of key steps. First off, we want to make sure for a young person right away, what we can do to make sure they're not feeling the weight of student debt and being crushed with what Jasmine described as a ghost that follows them and scares them everywhere they go. We're going to remove immediately all interest on student debt. That's going to be something we do right away. And then we want to move to go beyond that to replace loans with grants that are non-repayable. And our ultimate goal is to make sure students don't feel any barriers to getting the education they need, and that means free tuition. We want to make sure that cell phone companies stop exploiting people. We know a lot of young people are, and everyone actually needs to use a cell phone for work. You need cell phones for education, for services. We're going to put a cap on the amount that a cell phone company can charge you when it comes to your cell phone and internet. On top of that, we want to build affordable housing. We want to build 500,000 new affordable homes across this country. And that means that people will have an affordable option that's non-market, not-for-profit, or cooperative, so people can actually find a place they can live in and not be worried about whether they can stay there or they'll be kicked out or whether the rent's going to be too much. We want to make an affordable option a reality for people. We also want to help out those who are just on the edge and they're struggling with a rental subsidy of up to $5,000 for those who need a little extra help when it comes to the rent. We can do these things. We can tackle the climate crisis in a real way where we end fossil fuel subsidies and reinvest into clean and renewable energy. And we can make sure we fight the inequality that exists in society. We can tackle racism, make sure that we tackle gender inequality, and make sure that the LGBTQ community is more included in society in a more meaningful way. We can do all these things together. This is our new deal for young people, our new deal for people. And I'm confident if we make the right choices, we can deliver better results. Thank you very much, and I'm ready to answer your questions.
Hi, Mr. Singh. You just spoke about your platform aimed at young people. How are you going to actually mobilize them to get out the door and vote?
Well, what we're talking about today is a way that we can save young people up to $1,200 a year, put $1,200 right back into their pocket, and up to $5,000 in rental subsidies. These are real meaningful ways to make their lives more affordable. This is a real meaningful way to put money back into people's pockets and giving young people hope. And I really believe if you give young people hope, we can see amazing things happen. We can see amazing change. And I'm confident we can do that.
Candidate in Ottawa Centre has said during an interview that you would intervene in Bill 21 if it reached the Supreme Court of Canada. Could you clarify? You've got someone with your party saying that. Is that true?
What I've said really clearly is Bill 21 is something that, to me, makes me really feel sad. I think about growing up and being told that I couldn't be what I wanted because of the way I looked. And I know many people were told that they could not advance in their careers because of who they are. And now we've got a law that basically tells people exactly that. Not only are you being told, the law says you cannot pursue in a career because of who you are. That to me is really sad. And I'm going to Quebec on a regular basis, using my platform to say, hey, this is not the way to go forward. We'll get you.
Jérôme Labbé, Radio-Canada. J'ai réécouté votre réponse ce matin, la réponse que vous avez donnée hier, encore une fois, sur la loi sur la laïcité de l'État au Québec. Vous dites essentiellement trois choses. Et je reprends votre argument. Donc, un, en théorie, le premier ministre a un droit de regard sur les contestations devant la Cour suprême. Vous dites deux, qu'il y a actuellement une contestation devant la Cour supérieure. Et que trois, vous n'interviendrez pas dans le processus. Le problème avec cette chronologie-là, c'est qu'on ne sait pas, lorsque vous dites que vous n'interviendrez pas, on ne sait pas si c'est au niveau de la Cour supérieure, la Cour suprême ou entre les deux. Vous êtes avocat, vous me corrigerez si je me trompe. Entre les deux, je crois que la Cour d'appel du Québec aurait à statuer. Est-ce que vous pouvez être plus clair que ce que vous nous avez dit hier sur l'étape à laquelle vous êtes ouvert à une intervention en tant que futur premier ministre?
Donc, premièrement, il faut dire que je suis fortement contre le projet de loi qui divise la population. Et ça c'est quelque chose qui me rend tellement triste parce qu'il y a beaucoup de discrimination et j'ai fait face à ça dans ma vie et je reconnais l'expérience de beaucoup de gens qui font face à ça. Donc, c'est une annonce, c'est une répétition de faits que quand une poursuite rentre à la Cour suprême, le gouvernement a le droit de regarder ce qui se passe. Mais seulement, ma position n'a pas changé. Je ne veux pas intervenir parce qu'il y a une poursuite et il ne faut pas intervenir. Et ce que je veux faire, je peux dire clairement ce que je veux faire, ce que j'ai toujours dit, je veux dire bonjour au Québec. Je veux dire, je suis quelqu'un qui porte un turban et une barbe. Je suis pour le droit d'avortement, je suis pour les droits des femmes, je suis pour le droit de mourir dans la dignité. Et oui, je porte un turban, mais on peut travailler ensemble pour créer une société où on ne discrimine pas des gens à cause de leur apparence.
C'est au Québec que vous avez le plus de députés sortants, vous en avez 14. Êtes-vous vraiment prête à mettre en jeu ces 14 sièges sur un enjeu aussi spécifique que la loi sur la laïcité de l'État au Québec, même si en fait c'est pas vraiment c'est pas même du tout dans votre plateforme électorale?
Donc, ce que je peux dire, c'est toujours, rien n'a changé. Je ne veux pas intervenir. Ce que je veux faire, c'est de gagner les cœurs des gens. Et je veux montrer, regardez-moi, je suis quelqu'un qui lutte contre la crise climatique. Je suis quelqu'un qui veut renforcer les droits des personnes de communauté LGBTQ. Je veux renforcer les droits des femmes et je veux défendre le choix d'avoir un avortement. Je suis votre allié. Et oui, j'ai un turban, mais je partage vos valeurs.
Hi, Mr. Singh. It's Annie Bergeron-Oliver with CTV.
Hi.
The NDP lost Toronto Danforth in 2015 by a very slim margin to the Liberals. Do you feel that your performance in last night's debate was strong enough to put ridings like this in play more than ever before this campaign?
Well, we've got an incredible candidate, Minsuk Lee, who is fighting really hard in this riding, and she's a strong voice, and she can show the people of Danforth that you don't have to settle for less. We don't have to settle for a prime minister who's arguing about who's worse for Canada. We can actually have a leader who wants what's best for Canada. We can dream bigger. And instead of saying yes to the big pharmaceutical lobbyists, as Mr. Trudeau has said, we're going to say no to them and yes to people who deserve to have universal pharmacare and a dental care program that covers over 4 million Canadians who have no coverage right now will be covered with our plan. It's going to make a massive difference in people's lives. And I'm confident that the debate last night gave Canadians a real choice. And I hope the Canadians choose to dream big and to take a chance on something that's going to build a better future for them and for their families.
Okay. Now, many are saying that the GTA will once again be an area that's of critical importance in this election. How confident are you that you'll be able to make gains in Ontario? And what is your strategy to reaching out to voters who may be concerned about voting for a third party in the polls right now?
Very confident because people want to dream big. It's not enough to settle for less. And that's what Mr. Trudeau's message really is. It's a message about settling for less. Be afraid of the Conservatives and settle for less. And I want to tell people really clearly, you do not have to settle for less. That I will fight with every ounce of my skill and every ounce of my spirit for a universal pharmacare, for a dental care program that covers people that don't have coverage, to fight the climate crisis like we want to win, to build housing, make it affordable for people, take on the cell phone companies. We can do all these things. These are completely achievable, but we've lacked leadership in Ottawa because Conservatives and Liberals don't fight for people. They work for the rich. I don't work for the rich. I work for all of you. I work for the people. And I know we can deliver on these things if we have the right priorities.
Mr. Singh, Mike Lecouteur from Global National.
Hey there.
I wanted to ask you, some would say after each debate, you have come out on top. You've had moments during the campaign that you've reacted to. Even yesterday, two of the leaders congratulated you on how you've reacted to some of these moments. Does it frustrate you at all that you're seemingly doing so well in the campaign, but the polls just don't say that?
You know, I've gone through a lot of frustrations in my life, and that's nothing new. I work hard for everything, and I don't take anything for granted. But I'm not really worried about myself. I'm actually really frustrated that Canadians are being told that they should settle for less. I'm frustrated that Canadians have to choose between a person that believes in delaying or a person that believes in denying. I mean, I don't think people have to make that choice. And I really want to send the message to Canadians. You know, you're free to choose. Don't feel trapped. Don't feel trapped between these two options that are not going to make your lives better, that don't have the courage to make your lives better. I'm going to work every single day of this campaign to show that there is a real choice out there. I'm not going to take anything for granted. I never have in my life. I'm going to fight for people.
But so far, no matter how hard you've worked, you haven't gotten out a third, and you are still not showing people that there is that other option. Does that not frustrate you?
I don't get frustrated, and I don't take anything for granted. I work hard, I'm going to keep on working hard. Canadians are frustrated, and their lives could be a lot better. And I'm not going to give up on them. I'm not going to give up on Canadians. I'm not going to give up on a dream of making things better. And no matter how hard it is, I didn't expect this was going to be easy. I didn't get into this because it was going to be easy. If I wanted an easy path, maybe I would have become a liberal. But I wanted to fight for people. I wanted to take on those at the very top. And that's a tough thing to do. I'm not afraid of that.
Morning, sir. Colin with Canadian Press. I'm a little bit confused. You've spoken really eloquently about your opposition, your antipathy to Bill C-21, and yet you've kind of prevaricated on what you might do about it if you got to be Prime Minister or in a position to do something about it. So the question is, what would a province have to do in terms of restricting individual rights to get you to be definitive about weighing in and opposing?
Well, let's be really clear. There's been no prevaricating. I've been going to Quebec, regularly in this campaign, right into province where the vast majority of people believe this is okay, and telling them, hey, folks, I wear a turban, but I believe in a right for women to choose. I believe in a right for people to choose. I want to defend that right. I also believe in the rights of LGBT communities and same-sex marriage. I believe in that to the core of who I am. And I'm going to fight for those rights. I also believe in tackling climate crisis. And yes, I wear a turban, but that doesn't mean that I don't share your values. And I know that this is actually having an impact in Quebec. We're winning over hearts. The conversation is changing. People are starting to wonder, you know what? We've got Mr. Scheer on one side who doesn't have any turban, but is against a woman's right to choose, against same-sex marriage, against fighting the climate crisis. Maybe we got this thing all wrong. Maybe we're not actually going after the right thing. And I'm confident that that's what I can do. And that's a powerful thing to win over the hearts and minds of people. I'm doing that every single day.
You avoided answering whether you would get involved in a court challenge or not. However, if, say, the Liberal government, a majority or a minority Liberal government, was to actively intervene against the Bill C-21, would you support that?
Well, what I've said right now is there's a court challenge. And I don't want to in any way interfere with that court challenge because it's very important, and I support that right. What I'm doing, I don't take any lessons from Mr. Trudeau. I don't take any lessons from someone who's got a track record like Mr. Trudeau when it comes to fighting discrimination. I'm fighting every single day of my life. I have, and I continue to fight for a world where people are not judged based on the way they look. And I want to win over people. And I'm confident we can win over people because I know that in the heart of everyone, they want to build a world where we all work together, we come together. And that's what I'm doing. And the platform that I have gives me a great opportunity because I get this question every single day. And I get to talk to people. And you know what? You got young women who wear a hijab, young people that wear a yarmulke, people who wear a turban, who are being told that they're not worthy in society. And that's wrong. And I get to say that every single day. And I'm proud that I have an opportunity to do that. Well, you got 60% of people in Quebec that believe this is a good thing. I mean, if you can't win over the hearts and minds of people, you're never going to build a better society. I want to win over the people, and I'm doing that. I'm spending every single time I get, every single question I get, a chance to say, hey, do you think this makes sense? I got a beard and a turban, but I'm fighting for the right for women to choose, for people to choose, and you've got Mr. Scheer who's fighting against that. Maybe it doesn't make sense. And I'm confident people will eventually see that maybe their strategy is not working. Maybe it's not the right way to approach things. Maybe there's a better way. We can reinforce the rights of women. We can reinforce the rights of the LGBTQ community. We can reinforce the rights of people. Maybe that's a better way to separate church and state. And I'm confident that we can continue to do that. Oui, donc ce que j'ai dit, que je veux gagner les cœurs des gens, il y a une poursuite maintenant dans le cours de justice et je ne veux pas intervenir. Ce que je veux faire, c'est de gagner les cœurs des gens, de montrer, bonjour, je suis quelqu'un qui porte un turban, mais je suis pour les droits de l'avortement, je suis pour les droits de mourir dans la dignité, je suis pour les droits de la communauté LGBTQ. On a quelqu'un comme Andrew Scheer qui ne partage pas vos valeurs et il ne porte pas des signes religieux, mais peut-être le vrai problème, c'est des valeurs, pas des signes. Et on peut, je crois fermement qu'on peut aller de l'avant et créer une société où on ne discrimine pas les gens à cause de leur apparence.
Oui, bonjour, M. Singh. François Bergeron du journal L'Express de Toronto. On est littéralement 3 portes à côté.
Oh, parfait. Bienvenue.
Voilà, on parle beaucoup de la laïcité
Here.
au Québec.
There's
mais
a
pendant
lot
ce
of
temps-là,
talk
il y a
about
des
secularism in
gouvernements
Quebec,
provinciaux à
but in the
travers le pays
meantime,
qui
there are
combattent
provincial
le
governments
droit
across
des
the country
francophones
who are
d'avoir des écoles
fighting
équivalentes
against
à celles des
francophone
anglophones,
rights to
d'avoir des
schools,
services
like
en français.
anglophone schools,
Est-ce que vous
against
êtes,
services in
quelle est
French
votre
and so
position
on.
sur la
What is your
modernisation
position
de la
on
loi
the
sur les langues
modernization
officielles qui pourrait
of the
finir
Official
par
Languages
régler ça?
Act that could
Merci.
resolve this?
Parlant pas comme un francophone,
Yes,
mais
well,
j'espère
I don't
évidemment
speak
comme un
exactly
francophile.
like a francophone, but
J'adore
I
la
certainly
langue
am a
française.
francophile,
Et
and
je
I love
veux
the French
partager
language,
cet,
and I want to
amour.
share
Et
my
je pense
love
que
of the
c'est
language.
vraiment quelque chose
And I
qui donne
think
une grande
this is
richesse dans ma
something
vie.
that
Donc,
really
oui,
enriches your
on est
life.
pour la
So yes, we are in
modernisation de
favor
la loi
of
sur les
the
langues
modernization of the
officielles. Je
Official
veux
Languages Act.
augmenter
I
les
want
appuis
to
pour les francophones
increase
à travers
support
le
of
pays.
francophones
Je
right
pense que
across
c'est
the
une
country,
force
and
dans
I
notre
think
pays
that
que
is a
les gens
strength in
parlent
our
français.
country that
Et
people
je veux
speak French.
continuer
And I want to continue to support la francophonie, and particularly francophones outside Quebec. That is a source of strength for our society and for our country. And I want to support that, and I want to promote it.
Hi, back to me again.
Hi, no problem.
So you're here today talking about young people, and obviously they're one of the largest voting blocs. And in the 2015 election, it was young people who really were the base that got Mr. Trudeau elected. This election, a lot of people are talking about reduced voter turnout, that there's a rise in cynicism, that people just are disinterested. They don't see themselves in any of the parties. How are you going to try to fight that cynicism to try to get young people to come out and vote? And do you think they will? How do you fight this rumor or thought that voter turnout is going to be extremely low this election?
Well, I want to name the cynicism because you're right, there is cynicism. The cynicism is based on a prime minister that put himself out as someone that was going to make a difference in people's lives. And instead of fighting the climate crisis, bought a pipeline. Instead of bringing in electoral reform, dashed the dreams of proportional representation. I want to say to those young people who are still being crushed under the weight of student debt because Mr. Trudeau would charge $3 billion off the backs of students and give $6 billion to wealthy corporations. I want to say to them, you don't have to choose to go back to Mr. Trudeau. That is not your only option. You can choose someone who's going to fight against the big cell phone companies and put a price cap in place, someone who's going to fight against the climate crisis like I want to win it, someone who's prepared to take real action and put in place proportional representation. I've made that a commitment in my platform. I'm going to put it in place. No referendum. We've got a consensus on the committee. I would put it in place so we would never have the fear of a party getting less than 40% of the vote, but getting 100% of the power. I could change that forever. And I'm appealing to people. I know you're feeling let down and hurt because Mr. Trudeau made all these commitments and broke them and made people feel less hopeful about the future. I want to bring that hope back. I know we can do better. And the big difference is I don't work for the rich and powerful. And that's a part of the reason why Mr. Trudeau caved. He caved to the 1,500 lobby visits that the energy lobbyists, the oil and gas lobbyists made with the Trudeau government. And the over 875 times that big pharmaceuticals and insurance companies met with Mr. Trudeau's government. I don't work for those guys. I don't work for the powerful. I work for people. And I'm confident we can inspire people with that.
So along the same vein, I've been talking to a lot of progressive voters, and there's a sense from a lot of people that they might be voting strategically this time, that they don't really necessarily like Mr. Trudeau, but they like Mr. Scheer a lot worse, and they fear that voting for the NDP will end up creating a Scheer government. What do you say to progressive voters who are currently thinking voting strategically?
I say, how many times in your life have you done something because you were afraid and got a good result out of it? And how many times have you taken the courage to take a chance on something that was good for you and you did it and your life became better? And I say it's the same thing in this election. If you make a choice out of fear, we're going to get cynical results. But if you choose something that you believe in with your heart, you dream big, that's how you get big results. We're not going to get big results by dreaming small. We're not going to get amazing changes by settling for less. We're not going to bring in proportional representation or fight against a climate crisis or bringing in universal pharmacare if we dream small or if we settle for less. None of those things are going to happen. If you elect more New Democrats, you're going to see change. And I ask people, if you elect me as your prime minister, we're going to make this happen. If you elect more New Democrats, we're going to fight hard for you. That's the choice you have in this election. Someone who's going to fight for you or someone who's going to keep the status quo and continue fighting for the rich.
What did you learn from Tom Mulcair in the last election about how he handled the NICAB that you're keeping in mind this time around when you're dealing with Bill 21?
Well, I want to be really clear, and I've been really consistent on it. It's something that I oppose. I want to make it something really personal and about the people that I know that are being hurt by this. I want to tell their stories. I want to tell how those people are being hurt. I've met young women who wear hijab, who want to be educators, and who love teaching, and who are not going to be able to contribute to Quebec because of this law. There's a woman who wears a turban, and she is a teacher. She got trained and educated, and she went away for school. And when she came back, she found this law had been passed, and now she's had to leave Quebec. These are sad stories, and I want to let people know that I'm on their side. I'm going to fight every time I get a chance to let them know that this is not the way to build a better world, that we don't build a better world by dividing or discriminating. We build a better world by bringing people together. Ce que j'ai appris, c'est ce
What
que je veux
I've
faire,
learned
c'est de
and
toujours
what I want to
utiliser ma
do
plateforme de
is to
partager
always
des
use my
histoires
platform
personnelles,
to
et de
share
parler
personal
des gens qui
stories
sont
and to talk about the
impactés
people
par
who
cette
are
projet de loi.
impacted by
Le fait
this
que j'ai
legislation.
rencontré des femmes, des
Now,
jeunes
I have
femmes qui
met
portent
with
un
young
hijab,
women who
qui
wear
veulent
the
être
hijab
enseignantes,
that
et
want to be
maintenant
teachers,
ne peuvent pas.
and now they
Je
cannot.
veux partager
I
l'histoire
want to
d'une
share
jeune
the
femme,
story of a young
Sikh
woman,
qui
a
porte un
Sikh
turban,
woman who wears a turban
qui a pris de
and
formation
who
pour
was
devenir
trained
enseignante
to become a
à
teacher
Ottawa,
in
et elle a
Ottawa,
retourné au
and
Québec,
she's gone
et ce
to
n'était
Quebec,
pas un Québec accueillant,
but it
parce
wasn't
que,
a welcoming Quebec
elle ne peut
because
plus devenir
she can no longer
enseignante
become a
au
teacher
Québec. Et
in Quebec.
elle a dû partir,
So she had
Québec.
to leave Quebec.
et ça la rend triste parce qu'elle
And
a
that made her
adoré
sad because
Québec,
she
et
loved
maintenant, elle ne
Quebec
peut
and
plus
now she can
continuer
not
comme,
continue
enseignante au Québec.
as a
Ça me
teacher
rend
there.
triste.
This
Je pense que
saddens
ça
me.
partage
And
le message que
I
d'une
think it's
politique
important to
divisive et
share the
discriminatoire,
message that
ça
discriminatory
fait mal
policies hurt people,
vivre ensemble, ça fait mal
hurt
à la
our
société.
ability to live together and hurt our
What's the
society.
downside? Look, what's holding you back from coming forward and saying, look, if it got to the Supreme Court of Canada's level, I would intervene in this bill?
One thing I want to make really clear is I don't believe in interfering with the court decisions right now. There's a court decision, there's a court challenge going on, and that court challenge should not be interfered with. And that's why I'm being really clear about that. And what I want to do is use my platform to win over people and show them that this is not a good thing to do, that discriminating people based on the way they look is not a good idea. It's hurtful, it's sad, and I'm hoping that by doing this, I can win over people.
Just to follow up on that, isn't it even more clear to win over people by saying yes or no, I will intervene, instead of straddling this line where you are facing this barrage of questions every day, whether or not you will? Why don't you just come out and say yes or no? Because that would make it crystal clear to everyone.
What I get to do is, every time I get this question, I get to tell a story about someone who's being discriminated by this law, and how the people that think this is a good idea maybe thought it was a good idea, but when they see me and they see Mr. Scheer, maybe they start rethinking that whether this is a good idea or not. And I tell a story of a young woman who went to Ottawa to get trained as a teacher and came back to Quebec and now found that she can no longer teach. That's sad. There's a court challenge, and it's very important. I am a lawyer, and I think it's very important that I don't interfere in any way with a court challenge that's happening. And what I want to do instead is use my platform to win over people and show them that this is not a good idea. To divide people based on the way they look is not going to build a better world. My job is to do the best that I can to fight against something that is hurtful, and I'm going to do everything I can every single day. There's a very important court challenge going on. I want that to be very clear. There's a court challenge going on. I am a lawyer. I do not want to interfere with a court challenge. That court challenge is very important. I spent a lot of years in law school. I know the importance of court challenges. What I can do with the platform that I have is to tell people, this is wrong, it's hurtful, it's sad.
I was asking you before about, the polls and that sort of thing, and you said if I wanted the easy path, I would have become a liberal. What do you mean by that?
Well, the liberals take people for granted, and they assume that they're going to get into power. If you look at the path in the past, it's been liberals in power or conservatives, and then they switch back and forth, and they take Canadians for granted. They just assume that they are going to get into power, and they don't take on the powerful interests. Liberals don't fight back against the cell phone companies that exploit people. They meet with the cell phone companies, Mr. Trudeau's government has, over 500 times, and then continue to allow them to charge Canadians the highest cell phone prices in the world. Liberals don't fight against the status quo. They are the status quo. They're the power. They're the party of power and the institution. I believe in fighting back against that. I believe in fighting for people. That's why I became a New Democrat, because I want to take on the powerful who exploit people. I want to build a world where, Emma and Jasmine and Rita don't have to worry about their future, that they feel confident that we're going to build a better world where there is affordable housing and there's healthcare and there's affordable education for young people. That's what I want to build.
This election, you're very much promising change, that you want to tell people that you're the viable option against the status quo. This is very much what Trudeau did in 2015. Why do you think it's going to work for you this time around, copying that move out of his playbook?
Well, the difference is that people can look at Mr. Trudeau and see that it was all talk for him. There's a very different Mr. Trudeau where he talked a good game, but he didn't deliver on action. That he said nice words, but then behind closed doors did completely the opposite. He said he was going to defend the environment, then bought a pipeline. The contrast is really real with Mr. Trudeau. He says he's about young people, but charges them $3 billion on the backs of their student debt, and then gives $6 billion in loan forgiveness to the richest corporations. Those choices show that Mr. Trudeau is not who he said he was. He's someone who said one thing in public and is something else in private. I don't work for the rich. I don't work for the status quo. I don't work for the institutions or the powerful. I work for people. And that's the big difference between me and Mr. Trudeau. And for Mr. Trudeau, it was a playbook. It was a playbook. For me, it's who I am. It's the core of my being. It's everything I've done. And that's the difference. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for the questions. And thank you for everybody being here. Thank you so much. You're awesome. Thank you.